took us through your contingency plan this morning to tell the people out there what you guys are doing to minimize water outages. And you also mentioned 4 reasons. Just take us through the 4 factors at this stage.
We had discussed with you that we're trying to mitigate against is the issue of the drought. This is especially quite critical in the north, and that is in the Mdoni and surrounds, where because of the lack of rainfall and the levels of the dam, we had to look at some kind of water restrictions. We have not gone on to the stage 2 or stage 3 where we start restricting the flow of water. We're hoping that we can manage the situation. We also have the levels that are dropping in the dams in the south and southwest. But if this continues and we are told that we're only expecting rains in January, then we'll have to seriously consider some water restrictions. That's why we're trying to appeal to the communities to try and conserve water so that we can try and manage the season without any serious restrictions and curtailing people's activity, because we understand during the festive season it's a time when people really want to enjoy themselves, and we don't want to, on top of load shedding now, have water restrictions. So therefore our appeal is to the people to please try and assist us. And especially with those pump stations or water treatment works that are closer to the sea and are situated along some of the rivers, once the salination reaches a certain threshold, we have to shut down those systems because it will malfunction the system. And we have that problem. If you remember at the Potchefstroom river mouth, Mzumkula river mouth, we had to manually open the river mouth because the salination levels were going high, and then it closed again. So we have these various problems, and we are praying and hoping that we can conserve water so we don't have to implement these restrictions on the drought.
Okay, and then the load shedding, of course.
Yeah, the load shedding is something that we're obviously trying to work around, but Johan, the problem arises when it's an unplanned load shedding, like we had it on that one Thursday. We didn't know about it, and when the systems go down and you're unplanned, it's a problem to bring the systems up again. And like the General Manager of Water Services was explaining to you guys, once the system goes down, it takes a while before it can recover. Yeah. 2-3 hours we can manage that, but once it goes longer than that, and I think they gave you the stage 1, the stage 2, the stage 3, it really affects us. Remember, the emergency generators we have is for emergencies, it's not for load shedding. Whilst we are looking to bring in more generators, we'll have to make do with what we've got. Some of our bigger plants that we can't shut down have on-site emergency generators. The others we have to move around. But just understand, we have to separate this between your water treatment works and your wastewater treatment works, and then try and work out which one is a priority. So the load shedding is having an effect on our water treatment works and on our reservoirs, because once the reservoir level goes down to a certain level, it can take weeks before we can build up the water and pump water to people. So we might be considering, as explained to you, a total shutdown of the system for that period of time, which might be the hours that they have load shedding, so that immediately when we start the reservoir again, people can get water. So we'll also be looking at that very seriously.
Yeah, you mentioned unplanned load shedding, but what are you guys doing to make sure that ESCOM doesn't blindside you?
Yeah.
I mean, is there
yes, we have made contact with the local representative of ESCOM and Hibiscus and Umuzwa Bantu, where we buy electricity from, to please advise us so that we can make contingency plans. Where we have the schedules here, we are able to dispatch our generators to manage the sessions. But if it starts going to more than 2 hours a day, then I think we're going to be reaching some crisis proportions. But we'll then try and but we've given you the plan in terms of how we want to deal with it.
Yeah, just for information's sake, what happens is if the power is down, the pumps don't work, and the reservoirs run empty, run dry.
Then you have a problem. Then we have big problems, because it can take weeks before the reservoir builds up, and further to that, you need to understand now the demand so high that whatever water is going into the reservoir will just go into the system, and then you'll have the problem again where the high-lying areas will probably be without water for weeks. So that's why we're saying that when there's load shedding, in some instances, depending on what stage it is, we may also decide to shut off our systems to make sure that we can then, when the power comes on, restart our systems immediately. The idea is, as you're explaining, some of our systems are so fragile we cannot allow them to go down. Because once they go down, the whole system becomes dysfunctional, and then we're going to have problems.
Yeah, and the other factor, of course, is wastewater management, a very, very important one.
Yeah, your wastewater treatment works in some instances. We just cannot let these systems go down or malfunction, because, then you start getting effluent being released into the streams, rivers, and just into areas that will cause us big problems. So we'll also have to manage that and try and juggle, as the generators between the water treatment works and the wastewater treatment works. But to my mind, the wastewater treatment works will take priority. We also have VTS tankers on standby, where we find that in some of the plants where it's reaching high levels, we'll draw them and then move them around to other plants, so that we don't reach those crisis proportions where the whole plant malfunctions.
And of course, restaurants are very busy during the season, and if they don't do what they're supposed to be doing, they contribute to the water pollution.
That's correct, Johan. Notwithstanding the fact that we all have our own internal challenges with our wastewater treatment works, in terms of your infrastructure. So the added challenges you have besides the internal ones, some of which are of our own making, is that because the restaurants are so busy at this time, you have a lot of discharge of fats and grease and so on, where the restaurants don't have the necessary controls. And once it starts getting into the system, it becomes a problem. Then you also have a lot of foreign objects that also gets into the system. And if you have rains, a lot of people channel their stormwater into the sewer systems, and then this just overloads the system, and therefore the system malfunctions. So we are trying to deal with all these issues. So it will help, if people can assist and make sure the stormwater is not channeled into the system, that some of the restaurants make sure that they have the grease traps and that no fats and oils and all are let into the system. That will really assist us, and that people don't dispose of foreign objects into the system. That would really help us minimize problems we may experience in the wastewater treatment works.
And there's another factor, I've forgotten now, there's a fourth one.
No, it was the wastewater treatment works, yeah. Oh no, yeah, the fourth one was the supply.
Okay.
I think in terms of that one, it's a problem that of our infrastructure and your supply and demand. It's only, unfortunately, at this time where you find some of the infrastructure giving way because it cannot cope with the supply. And those we'll have to try and respond. But unfortunately, there's no quick solutions for that one. So that one's in terms of your pipe replacement program. And the Ramsgate problem we have. Fortunately, we were able to deal with that, so we're managing that. But now we're picking up other problems. I think there's some problems in Ivongo and St. Michael's, which is coming up now quite seriously. So in the new year, we'll have to look at these areas. But for now, we will have to try and manage them. We have increased the number of water tankers we have available. We're also going to have static tanks at affected areas so people can have a continuous flow of water. The main thing is to make sure there's no serious disruptions to people's holidays, and that we are able to provide water. We can't have a situation where, both water and electricity, which are your basic necessities, not provided. I mean, that's going to make people very unhappy. So from our side, we're trying to do our best with water, and we've learned from our previous years' mistakes, and we're trying to rectify them.
And finally, when these things do happen, there needs to be somebody on the other side of a telephone line who can tell at least what has happened, roughly, when will it be restored. Will you guys be able to do that this year?
Yes, Johan. Like we told you this morning, we had a session with our civic formations, and have explained to them. We are also putting them now onto our system, so that when these things happen, we quickly communicate with them and tell them where the problems are, so they can communicate with the people. We're hoping to go on radio, and obviously using e-house it and the news media to communicate with the people and explain to them what it is. So we're going to try and be in communication with people all the time, so that they understand what it is. But I think most importantly, we've got to be able to respond immediately to bring relief in whatever form to those people, so they can continue, with their festivities. Because the last thing we want to hear is that people have packed up and left the area, I mean, load shedding is happening all over the country, so they're not going to say it's just happening here. But if we're going to have water problems here, then they're just going to pick on the issue that it was a water problem. So we'll have to deal, notwithstanding the fact that load shedding affects our ability to deliver water, we've got to work around that and make a plan. Finally, on behalf of our mayor and the entire leadership of the UGU District Municipality, we want to take this opportunity to wish all our communities a blessed festive season. For those of you that will be traveling, we hope you travel safely. For those of you that will be spending time with your families, we hope you have memorable moments. But more importantly, for those of you that will be working to ensure that all our communities are safe and enjoying the festivities, we thank you and acknowledge your sacrifice, and we hope to see all of you in the new year with a new vision and hoping to achieve all that we dream of. Once again, have a blessed Christmas and a Happy New Year to each and every one of you.